patrons, welcome to what should be a pretty short, unedited, one-take video for you with horrible lighting. So we are looking at one of the front big double windows of my apartment where you can never really see anything on the camera. I want to show you my Ostara Vernal Equinox altar, and obviously when I get closer, there we go, you'll see we will see things more clearly. But starting up at the top here, these are not specific to the Equinox altar, but above my altar is hanging the iron fairy star that I got sort of as a gift from my first witch camp. It belonged to a member of the home community from the camp that I went to because it was out of state for me. It was not in Ohio. There is no witch camp in Ohio yet. Maybe I will eventually be able to start one once I am a reclaiming teacher and develop some community here. But anyway, from someone from the home community, this star belonged to them. They made it, and someone put my name in the raffle to win it, and I won it. I have no idea who put my name in, but it came home with me, and it hangs above my altar, so that is my fairy star. And I have two brooms here. They're little decorative brooms, trying to move the lighting so you can see them clearly. I have one on either side that I got from a secondhand shop. The little shop that I've shown in my videos in the past. It's owned by a little old Italian couple. Maria gave me those. So there's that. And we have this little shelf in front. Welcome to my messy home, everyone. This is, right now, this is a pile of my craft stuff because my office upstairs is a mess, and that's where I want to be able to do all my crafting stuff, but also I tend to always just bring whatever I'm working on down here and work on it sitting on the couch while we watch movies and stuff. So everything just ends up down here anyway. But this is like a pile of my crochet hats, some other crochet stuff that I've been working on, all of my wire and beading stuff, completed crochet bag projects, and a bag of yarn for future projects. That's all down here, as well as my white board, more Yule lights, winter solstice lights, and that's what these are from. These are still up from winter solstice and last year's calendar. But this little shelf in the middle I got from a friend, and it's just been sitting in front of this, it's a window seat altar, right? So I thought it was a pretty cool space to use for the altar. So right now it just has, it used to have a basket of incense here that I moved over to the left, which I'll show you in a minute. Right now it just has some crystals in a container, candle, candle, candle. Okay, this shelf has my Book of Shadows / grimoire, my fancy unicorn one, and some candles, and a yellow lighter, because, yeah, that's what I use. I don't use matches particularly. And then up on the top, it just has this little kind of like parent and child statue thing. Okay. Up on the top here, we have one of the newest things that I did purchase. I purchased this from the dollar store, so it was $1 United States dollar, representing the equinox. To me, I just thought that was so perfect. It's half sun, half moon. And I bought another one. There was a different design that had a crescent moon along this edge, and then the sun up here, that I bought for my cousin who also loves sun and moon celestial designs. I got it for her birthday, which is this week. And so this is the one that I got for myself. I love. So it's right in the center. So the idea for me for this altar, it's not so much Ostara as it is the vernal equinox. That's the thing that I really concentrate on. So the equinox, the balance of light and dark. So the concept for this altar is balance things in the middle, and then I've got the dark on the left and the light on the right, as are the traditional correspondences. So I've got that, and then this sort of ring, could be a candle holder, could be an incense holder, because it has a hole in the center. I use it for incense mostly. This used to belong to my mother. So it's a circle of people, circle of friends. So to me it represents friendship, but also community. So I have that there in the middle for balance. I have green, you can't even tell that these are green because of the lighting, but these are green sequined and embroidered hand fans that I got at the dollar store, but I've had these for a while. I have a bunch of them in all different colors to match my medieval fair outfits but I have 2 green ones. Here, starting at the dark side, come to the dark side, the left-hand side, the feminine side, we have a journal that my partner got me for winter solstice, for Yule. Winter solstice, really. I call them by the solstice and equinox names mostly in my practice. It has a raven on it that is holding a pentacle necklace, and it's got the full moon behind him. The raven and crow are some of my animal allies. And then I have a unicorn here, which some people might think a unicorn, like that's pretty bright and happy, like that's definitely on the side of the light. But the left-hand side in the darkness is also dreams and illusion and imagination and intuition, and the unicorn is also a very feminine-esque thing. Yeah, so for me it's the symbolism of like the underworld, the unknown, the imaginary dream world. And then I also have this little mushroom carved statue thing, because I love mushrooms. I've always loved the way they looked, even before I liked how they tasted. And so I've had this for a long time. I decided to put it on the altar because fungus, it typically grows in like dark, damp, cold places. And when it shows up in places like in the walls of your house, we don't like it, right? So it's something that's kind of pushed to the darkness. So I put that on this side. I also got, I've been collecting these scarves for a while from the dollar store. They have really cool patterned scarves, and they go really well on things like this, or like our little side bookshelf here. This size, the scarves are perfect to cover this. So when I used this as a supplemental altar for our Samhain ritual, I have a couple Halloween scarves that I had gotten from the dollar store because I love Halloween, so I was wearing them. But then I realized, oh, I could get them for every season. So I got this at the dollar store. This was $1. This was a gift. This is an iron pentacle trivet. If you have followed me on other social media, you know that a couple years ago I went to the Iron Pentacle core class. It's part of the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft, and one of the core classes that I have to take to become a reclaiming teacher, but also it's just an absolutely wonderful class and meditation tool if you've ever read Starhawk's The Spiral Dance, or the sequel, The 12 Wild Swans. They talk about the Iron Pentacle and the Pearl Pentacle. So I have an actual physical Iron Pentacle now, which is just incredible. It was a gift, also for winter solstice. And underneath it I have the snake card. I had this out on All Snakes Day, also known as St. Patrick's Day, to celebrate the snakes that are still here, that were not driven out. Snakes being an allegory symbol for the pagans who were converted to Christianity by St. Patrick. And so I just left the snake card. It was in the center of the altar on St. Patrick's Day, All Snakes Day. And then I moved it over here under the Iron Pentacle for the dark. It's the dark and the mysterious and the occult, and the things that people want to push away, but we persist. This mask was put here by my partner as part of their contributions to the altar, so I cannot tell you the meaning behind it for them. And I have this little clay triple moon goddess symbol that was made by my friend who is the high priestess of a coven. They make cute little things like this to sell at Pagan Pride events to raise money for their coven, and they gave me this one because I thought it was cute, and she was like, you can have it. So I use it on my altars. Usually it's down here on one of these shelves, but for the equinox I put it here because, again, this center area was balanced. So I've got the triple moon here, and on its opposing side here, the opposite side, is this sun pin that I have had for I don't know how many years. So this is just something that I've had. I don't tend to wear it, but I put it on my altars a lot to represent the sun. So there it is. Where does it go? Here, I'm trying to put it back exactly to balance. And then I just have an incense burner here with some Palo Santo and some different incenses. So I kind of let that be the balance to the mask. And then here on the light side, we have, in balance to the unicorn, we have the lion. Those of you who are familiar with British history will be like, oh yeah, the lion and the unicorn. But that's not the only reason that I did it. I've had this lion, it's actually a box that has a unicorn pin in it, among other things. I've had this for years and years and years. And on my very first altars from when I first started practicing, when I was like 12 years old, I had my lion represented me being a Leo, and it was my God representation. It represented the sun. Leos are ruled by the sun, very solar energy. So this was my God symbolism, my masculine side, my sun energy, solar energy, and this unicorn, which is actually an oil burner. You can see here, a candle goes down here, and you can put oil or incense or whatever in there. The unicorn was my feminine energy. So I had both of those on my altars forever. So I decided to use them to represent the balance in this equinox altar, my beautiful Leo. And then, of course, because it is spring, it's the vernal equinox, I have some plants here. My African violet is not coming back up yet, but it's here in the hopes that the light from the window will encourage it back. And then when it gets warm enough outside, I will put some things outside and put some things by the back window as well. And I have this succulent that my partner, when we first moved out here to this new place, was working at a flower shop, and this was a succulent that was getting thrown out, and they brought it home for me. And see, it needs a bigger pot, really. That's all it is. It's got this cool, like, ceramic, the glaze looks like icing on a cake. But yeah, this is my first succulent. Some of you who have succulents might be like, Cara, it's dying, it's horrible, what are you doing? You're abusing that poor plant. I admit that I don't know how to take care of a succulent very well, except that I know you're supposed to water it till it's full, and then don't water it again until it soaks up all of the water. That's what I read online. But it also just needs a bigger pot. It's just pouring out. It just wants to grow. So I put it here because the vernal equinox is about growth and springing forth of life. And I have these little teeny fairy decorations, as well as this scarf, are from the dollar store. So I have a gazebo here that actually is hollow in that little doorway there. You can't really see with the light, but you could put something inside there. It's open. A little gazebo. And this cute little table and chairs with a butterfly and a flower and some little mushrooms, because I love having tea with the fairies. That's something that I always did as a child, and when I saw this, I was like, I have to get this and I have to put it on my altar. And this is the new spring scarf that I grabbed. And this is something that I made. I do a lot of Sharpie art on cardboard. And a couple years ago, my depression was really, really bad. And I mean, it's still not great, it's still there, but it's doing so much better. But during a time that it was very bad, I was rereading some Robert Frost poems, and I realized that if you read these things with the idea, you know, of depression in mind, they take on a very different meaning. So the woods, to me, represents the times, those valleys, those down times in my life, when I just, low energy days, down in the valley, right? You're in the woods. We have sayings where we say, like, oh, we're not out of the woods yet. The woods meaning a difficult situation that's hard to get through, it's dark, you know. So the woods. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. When I get in those moods and I just want to sit on the couch and burrow and not do anything, and I'm content just not doing anything and not getting anything done, and I might be mad at myself for it, but it's easier to sit there and stew and do nothing than it is to drag myself out of the woods. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, and comforting. But, Robert Frost says, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. Miles to go before I sleep. I have so much life to live. So that is my reminder that in those dark times, in those times where we feel like we're in the woods, we have to remember we have promises to keep and we have so much more life to live. So I put that on the light side of my altar. It was going to go on the dark side, but then I realized, no, this is a reminder to pull ourselves out of that side. When we realize that we're unbalanced and we're too much over here, then we've got to come back to the balance, right? That's what it's all about. It's not about always living over here in the light side. Nobody can be 100% on, perfect, all the time. There are going to be times we have to spend time over here. This is a perfectly beautiful side. This is a perfectly great side, right? Awesome stuff over here. I've got some animal allies. I've got some plant allies. I've got some deep knowledge of myself and who we are and that we're not going anywhere. And so it's important to be over here too. It's important not to ignore the dark side, nor to ignore the light side. There are a lot of people who just want to stay in the dark forever, like I said with that quote, right? It's a reminder. Whatever side we find ourselves overbalancing to, one side or the other, have to come back to that balance. And that's what the equinoxes mean for me. And the solstices and the equinoxes are definitely the most important Sabbats to me outside of Samhain because of ancestor stuff. And over here, I just want to show you because I rearranged some stuff. So the incense basket that used to be on that bottom shelf over there is down here, which is where it used to be before on the bottom shelf of this table. This was my mini altar table, one of my first altar tables that I got from my mom. There's just some random stuff sitting in front. These candles were on my Samhain altar. These are from the dollar store as well. But I decided to redo this. This was supposed to be my Fae altar. It's not right now, but it's got some candle storage and then my tarot cards and oracle cards storage, some random ritual items and altar decoration items that I have used at different times. So I have the horn here. I have an ear of corn that's from harvest rituals from a couple years ago. It just still hangs out here. This is some ancestor related stuff. This is some ancestor related stuff. This is some 12 Wild Swans related work. The character in the story, the 12 Wild Swans, name is Rose. And so I had that on my altar when I was first working through that years ago. And up on the top here I have some things that were from my $10 altar that I made for Dayton Pagan Pride that you guys probably saw I made videos about for that project. And also just some stuff that I've had around from other altars throughout the years. So there's selenite infused water there, consecrated water, baddie, of course. This is an amethyst that someone got me recently. This is a theater ancestry related thing from undergraduate school. This was on my $10 altar. This goes on my Athena altar some of the time, but is hanging out here as a contrast life and death balance. I put this together at the equinox. This is a scrying wand that used to belong to my mother. This is a little scarecrow witch that my mom got me, that she's been on my altar since harvest season last year. And this is a stone that I found at witch camp that to me looks like sort of the shape of a bird skull. So this represents my bird allies as well, the crow and the raven, without having to actually be a physical skull. It is a stone, so it is from the earth, and it showed up to me on a witch walk when I was working with those allies during that witch camp and found this stone in the middle of my path. And I thought, what a nice gift for them to give me something to represent them that is not physically a bone, because I'm vegan. So yeah, that's my Vernal Equinox altar. I am not sharing this with anyone else but you guys, my patrons, and not even posting a picture of it. I originally just took a photo of it to show you guys, but I decided to record a whole video. So I hope you enjoyed it. This, I understand, obviously not everybody has a giant window seat altar, and I didn't used to. Remember, I used to only have this little table, or I got this round table from my mom several years ago. I've even used this little desk table as a working altar. I used this in our Samhain ritual. So I've had lots of different surfaces throughout the years. You do not have to start with a whole window seat in your living room. This is just what I've been able to graduate to because we happen to have this in our house. And we thought this would be a great use of this space. So yeah. Feel free to downsize and do very tiny versions of this. I also, when I first started and I had the unicorn and the lion, my altar was the top of my dresser. And I just had the two different sides and my basic elemental representations. And I have other little altars all throughout my house, which I'm not going to show you right now because I'm not going to edit this video. But yeah, you can really make it your own and someday have the giant window seat altar that you aspire to, if in fact you do. Or you can just do what I did when I was first starting and put everything in a little box. And when you're doing something, take everything out of the box, close the box, put a nice cloth on top of the box, put all your things on top of the cloth on top of the box. Do your working. When you're done, you take everything off, take the cloth off, open up the box, put everything back in the box, close the box, store it away for next time. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.